Hi, Abraham. Thank you for calling on me. So glad to be here. I have 2 questions if we have time. The first is, how do I use your teachings to improve my sex life?
Well, the teachings apply to everything. Everything.
Uh-huh.
And so,
Because my husband isn't part of this.
well, all right, this is a really good opportunity to talk about what your power of influence is. Because usually, not always, but usually when you are talking about sex, you're talking about more than just you.
Exactly.
And so the thing that trips most people up when they are thinking of co-creating with someone else is that it feels like the other person needs to be on the same page, needs to want the same thing, even needs to believe the same things. And we would like to remind you that the conversation that we had about the power of influence, the conversations that we have over time about what it's like when you tune into who you really are, that your influence then attracts from others, evokes from others harmony that you don't find otherwise. So we want to first take this opportunity to acknowledge that, especially in relationships, that if you would worry less or not at all about what the other one is doing and focus upon your relationship with your inner being, every relationship that you have will be dramatically improved because you get into your receptive mode, and then your impulses and your ideas flow from that. So over time on this subject, as with any subject, you have put plenty into your vortex.
Not yet. I mean, I haven't really thought about making it better. I've kind of given up, and now I thought maybe you could help.
So there's a misunderstanding because as you live life, when something isn't as you want it to be,
Put it in the vortex.
you put it in. And so your vortex is full of all of the intentions and desires and improvements that you are seeking, because it just happens that way. Life just causes that to happen. But your attention, and it is evidenced by the conversation that we're having even now, your attention is upon what is happening rather than upon what is vibrationally apparent to us. Now, we get that. We know how annoying it is to our human friends when we are continually going on about this vibrational reality, because for most of you, it doesn't feel like any kind of a reality until you can see it and hear it and smell it and taste it and touch it. In other words, until it's actually happening in that full tactile sense, then it doesn't feel real. But on the subject of sexuality, more than any other subject, is the opportunity to realize that everything is so much more emotional than it is anything else. And if you can accept that it's emotional, that you have the ability and the power to find the emotion of it, whether the other does or not, when you find alignment with your inner being and you hold yourself there, your power of influence will be. It will be. But there is a shortage consciousness that is really active within you.
What does that mean?
It means you're more aware of what isn't happening than what is happening. And still in the blaming mode, because it feels like if someone else would be different.
No, I blame myself. I do. I guess I do. I just feel like I haven't been into it or making an effort, or that's why I wanted to know what I should do using your teaching. And
find the feeling of it, and then follow the inspiration from the feeling. There are many who say, if I take an action and I get involved in the action, then the action itself will in time improve the emotion. Now, we don't disagree with that to some extent. In other words, we know that when you follow a behavior, that your emotion can follow, but it is so much more powerful. In other words, we want you to get in the mood and then make your move. Not make your move to get in the mood. Get in the mood. Get in the mood. Get yourself in the mood. And you have the ability to do that. And what goes wrong with so many is you want to say to the other, you're not making me in the mood. And what your inner being is saying, hey, that's your job. It's your sweet spot. Yeah.
Okay. I got it.
So nothing like making a list of positive aspects. Nothing like getting into an attitude of appreciation. In other words, there are all those things that will tune you in, line you up. Yeah. Something else?
The last thing I want to say, and again, my husband's on the cruise, so please don't say anything. And the last thing I want to say is my last question is, can you undo what you've manifested with law of attraction? Because I'm a writer and I kind of put it out there that I didn't care what was going to happen with my cover, and I didn't care what was going to happen with the sales force, and now my covers come back and it's terrible, and then the copies come back for the jacket and it's terrible, and I'm kind of upset about it, but is that it? Or can I?
Yeah, you're done.
I'm just done?
Since in print, law of attraction can't help you.
Okay, it's not in print yet. It's not in print yet, but it's done.
We're being sarcastic.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm just asking.
And it's not very appealing, is it? We are teasing you because, of course, everything is amendable. And you often don't know how you care about something until you're there.
Right.
In the beginning, we would tell a story about, so you live in a house and there are not enough closets. And so you fixate on wanting a house with more closets. And if someone says, why are you moving? You say, because I need more closets. And they say, well, tell me about it. And you say, well, I have all of these shoes and all of these hats and all of these beautiful clothes, and I really need big, beautiful closets. And then when you move into the house, you find out it doesn't have a kitchen. And you realize that you overdid it on the closets and you didn't give much attention. You weren't well-rounded. But now you're in a house with closets that you're appreciating, and now you want a house with a kitchen and so forth. And while this is a very rudimentary example, it's like that. Where you stand is always going to reveal to you more improvement, because improvement is the name of the game. And it's what all life is about. It's about joyful expansion. So wherever you stand, you're always reaching for more. And what you're helping us to emphasize, we really want you all to feel this in a very powerful way. You are never going to be satisfied, because life is always going to call you to another new place and another new place. And so rather than being upset with the copywriters or upset with the graphic artists, instead look at it as a clarifying experience, because you weren't that clear about what you wanted. When you said you didn't care, what you meant was, I'm not focused. What you meant was, I don't care enough to decide what I really want. Well, now what you may say, because you say it all the time relative to other things, I'll know it when I see it. I'll know it when I see it. And so you know what you don't want when you see it, just like you know what you do want when you see it. And it takes some experience to know what you don't want, to know what you do want. So sometimes if you are, and we love you very much, and we're not meaning this in a derogatory way at all of you, you're lazy. You're lazy in that the situation hasn't evoked clarity from you because it hasn't seemed necessary. Well, now it does seem necessary. Now you are going to get involved in your own book cover, and it's going to look the way and sound the way you mean for it to sound. And look, it's going to be much more satisfying for you. Did somebody else write your book?
No.
Well, then why would somebody else do that part? In other words, you see what we're getting at? It's like saying, I think I'll write a book. You write it, and then I'll see how I really don't like this book. And we say, write the book. You write the book. Don't ask somebody else to write your book, and don't ask somebody else to get inside your head and know what you want. And sometimes there are some first stages about that. And so it doesn't matter if you have to have 10 generations of a book cover before you like it.
And you know, right? Or Esther knows.
Well...
Yeah, well, it's different. Sorry.
It's the same, but over time, you get so you know what you want. And sometimes you begin working with people who know what you want. And so it gets easier and easier. But you know what? The easier it gets, the more boring it is. The less you have to think about things that matter to you, the less engaged you are, the less energy is flowing. And so if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would look forward to digging in and deciding and feeling the inspiration. And the first stage of being inspired to know what you do want is being inspired to know what you don't want. It just is. Good enough?
I love you, Abraham.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Now what?